What's up, and welcome back to the Kinda Funny Screencast. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes, and I'm joined by the Big Daddy, Greg Miller.
Hello.
The producer / seducer, Nick Scarpino.
The boys are back in town.
The Nitro Rifle, Andy Cortez.
Good morning, everybody.
And making his return to Kinda Funny, but his first appearance on the Kinda Funny Screencast, we have the one and only Fuego del Sol from AEW. Woo!
Thank you. Happy to be here. So happy to talk about this show. I could explode into a million pieces.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You want to be the first.
Of course, we are talking about The Boys Season 3, Episodes 1 through 3, because this is the Kinda Funny Screencast where each and every week we get together to talk about the latest in TV, movies, and trailers. You can check it out on youtube.com/kindafunny or roosterteeth.com. You can also get it as a podcast by searching your favorite podcast service for Kinda Funny Screencast, and we'll be right there for you. If you wanted to get the show ad-free and watch live as we record it, you got to go to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like our Patreon producers, Gordon McGuire, Molecule, and Fargo Brady have done. Today, we're brought to you by Chime, Credit Karma, and MeUndies, but I'll talk to you about that later. Screencast is going to be popping the fuck off the next couple weeks because we got, starting next week, we will be doing weekly reactions to The Boys, Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Miss Marvel. So that's going to be very exciting times. And then on the in review front, we're going to be doing Jurassic World, Dominion, which Greg Miller is really excited about. And then we're going to start doing.
Sorry about the ratings, everybody. I'm sorry about the ratings. They're going to talk sense into these idiots.
So go check out the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom review if you want to see how unhinged Greg Miller can actually get, because somehow it's more than you could ever even imagine. But stay tuned to In Review and Screencast for all of your entertainment needs here at Kinda Funny. It's going to be a very good time. But enough of that stuff. Let's get right into it. It's been a long wait. Fuego, I want to start with you. What did you think about the first 3 episodes of The Boys Season 3? And just, by the way, full spoilers. From here on out, it's full spoilers for these things. That's how we do for these TV reviews. Fuego, go for it.
Man, what a show. What a show. I've never seen a show go for it as much as this show did. I haven't had an overwhelming sense of shock in this first scene at this party with Termite since the first season of when A-Train ran through his girlfriend. It was such a holy shit moment. I very much enjoyed it. Even some of the subplots, the smaller things going on. I am so all in on every character and seeing where this goes, because it's a show unlike anything I think we've ever seen before. And I'm so glad it's back. I didn't realize how much I missed The Boys in my life until these 3 episodes dropped.
Andy Cortez, you were the late adopter to The Boys. I remember, didn't watch season 1 as we were watching it, but later you went back, watched it on your Twitch, got obsessed with it, and joined us for season 2. Where you at with season 3 so far?
Yeah, man, it's so consistently good, and it does shock value in a way that doesn't ever just feel like shock value, because I think there's just so many damn interesting things happening all over the place. And I think, like Fuego just mentioned, the sort of B plot and C plot stuff happening, I think this time around is more interesting than the prior seasons, where I don't ever feel like they were necessarily bad, but maybe we didn't really care a whole lot about the Deep and him going through his struggles because everything else was just so magnified. But having that moment with Homelander being like, I'm the fucking Homelander, and I don't care. Like, you can put me on blast, and then I'm actually going to do what I get to do, because my base has been riled up, and I've seen what happens when I speak my mind. It's just another kind of like too close to home sort of some things happening with this show.
Pulled from the headlines.
Yeah, but it's just so well done, and I'm waiting for them to miss. I'm waiting to have an episode that doesn't really intrigue me, but everything has just been so damn well done and well paced out as well.
Nick.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you guys. I looked forward to this show coming back. I hope they keep doing this show forever, because to Andy's point, they're not missing yet. I haven't seen an episode that I haven't been incredibly enthralled with. I don't think ever in this series. I don't think they've had even some of the episodes that are less fun than the other ones that are just developing some of the side stories. I'm still fascinated by. They could do a whole series of Grace Mallory down in Nicaragua or wherever she was,
right?
with Payback Squad and all that stuff. And I would be fascinated by that. the Soldier Boy character coming in, and this mystery of whether or not they actually have a weapon to kill Homelander, which seems to be the overarching plot of the entire season, is fascinating to me and absolutely awesome. And just the fact that they're able to, after how many seasons? This is season 4. Is that what it is? Three.
But there was
Still,
the animated thing in between.
right? That makes sense. It still keep me absolutely terrified of Homelander.
Yeah.
Is just speaks to the volume of how good their storytelling is with this. And Dee walked in, my wife walked in for like 1 second, watched a couple scenes, and she's like, God, he's terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's not because of his power. It's because Anthony Starr is so good at being that conniving, manipulative piece of shit. And and then you've got also the Stan Edgar character, who's just also so fascinating. And then what's going on with Natalie or Victoria, whatever her name is. It's all this stuff is just so many cool plot threads that I can't wait to see how they unwind.
Greg Miller.
Yeah, Fuego said at the top, like, he didn't realize how much he missed it. And I feel like that's a perfect way to encapsulate it, where we had this ongoing discussion, right? Gary Wood was just on the Kind of Funny podcast, and we talked about, obviously, the Disney Plus weekly releases versus a Netflix binge model and stuff like that. And I feel like The Boys happens like a hurricane, and when it's done, we're on to the next thing, and I don't find myself thinking of it. Like, I enjoy it in the moment. I love it in the moment. I think the cast is so good, and what they do with the superhero genre is so good that when I started up before I even started episode 1, shout out to our friends at IGN. I went and watched the recap on all 3 seasons. Max Scoville did a great job. God, he's great at VO. And I was like, and even some of the stuff they were saying, I was like, I vaguely remember that. Okay, yeah. And to jump into it and get going again and get reintroduced to these characters and where they are, a year after the events of season 2, it was like, oh my God, like I forgot how much I loved the show, and I love how much they play off each other. And there's things, little story threads and stuff we'll get into as we start really picking it apart that I'm not like 100% there for, but I'm with Andy where I think the B plot overall, I am more engaged in this time around. And I think it is a simpler through line. And the same thing Nick said, going to see the Colonel as a young woman out there having to deal with, Jason Eccles and all this stuff was awesome. And I like that flashback, and I like how cool she is. Anthony Starr, as you said, yes, is great at giving this unhinged Homelander thing. And, when he stepped up to Starlight and was like, all right, release the video, but realize this is how I would take everything apart. You're like, damn, that's awesome. But Tim, what'd you think?
Absolutely in love. Like, there's a level of like specialness that I think comes from nailing satire that the original thing itself can't ever fully hit, because the satire has to be steps ahead of it, right? So no matter how good something is, if something can properly satirize it, I feel like there's that extra credit of like, oh wow, like you found what made that thing work, and you're questioning it, looking at it from a different perspective, and et cetera, et cetera. The Boys, from season 1 all the way to now, including the little animated thing that it did, I think has built the single best superhero world we have ever seen in TV and movies, I would say so far.
Wow.
Where
better than MCU.
And it's different.
Sure.
But I think that in talking about the world and how it works and all the different elements, and I think the reason I'm saying that is because the MCU exists. So they're able to just look at it and kind of poke fun of it. And there's an understanding and a language that we all can just watch things. And when we see the Vought Studios logo, we understand the implications of what that means. When we see the Snyder Cut jokes and stuff, like it's totally one of those, if you know things, but it's also like, it perfectly feeds into the story that they're telling. And there's a level of just brilliance to this show, I think, that I haven't felt since South Park. And I think a lot of that has to do with the ability to take complex matters and really shallow matters, put them together. So like superhero comic book, just nothing dumb fight stuff, but then also the deep complexities of superheroes and what they can be, and what we've seen Superman and Batman and so many X-Men, so many stories over time tell, where it's like all superheroes are at their best is looking at humans and trying to figure out like how to tell stories about that, right? And I think that the ability for these things to feel as timely as the South Park 7 Days to Air type thing, but consistently season to season, where every season feels like it is reflecting our exact moment right now in a way that almost feels impossible to have guessed. But the sad thing is, it's the most obvious thing in the world, right? Like, it's like so not hard, because like, yeah, of course there's going to be the Joe Rogan type, the Trump type, like uses of power and popularity as the key metric for power overall. And on top of all that stuff, it's just things like the design of the Seven Tower and the design of all the costumes and the quality of all of it and the decisions they make with their VFX and the moments that they're going to have, whether they're going to play something like a joke, play it seriously, play it scary. Like they just, I think, make the right calls every step of the way. And I think that the show, the longer it goes on, similar to the MCU, it builds upon itself and it's building its trust with us that we're going to let them go a little further. And it's at the point now that when you really break it down, the A plot is probably the least interesting plot we've ever seen in The Boys because it is just the good guys are trying to kill the bad guy. Like that is like the most basic superhero shit ever, but they somehow have turned that simple thing into the most complex superhero story that I've experienced in a very long time, where every single plot is adding up to me. Every single thing is interesting. And the one thing that I am a little hesitant about is watching it and I'm like, all right, cool. They're referencing a lot of the stuff, the woke stuff, the BLM stuff, like all of this. But are they actually
BLM BLTs?
yeah, exactly. All of that. It's like, but are they actually saying something with it? Or are they just kind of like referencing how life is right now? Right. And my argument is, I think they are. And I think the point of this whole idea that popularity is power, it's almost the reverse of what the show is. The show is popular and they are putting these ideas out there. And there's a very clear good guys and bad guys. And I think that they are using that. That is the message. And I applaud them for it because I think that they are doing an absolutely phenomenal job. Great
I'm with you, and I think it's not lost when you watch it and see that, right? Because again, the BLM, BLTs, and all the other like rainbows and stuff, right? Like it's a soulless corporation trying to latch on to real movements and use them to sell you a
Dave's
sandwich.
world called like Inclusion World or something like that.
Yeah, and they have that all over Vault World, right? And they have that, and I think if you have even a moment of watching the show long enough, you think about it, like when the Deep was starting to get it on in front of the octopus, and his wife took off her shirt. Jen's like, surprising lack of titties in this show, and I was like, is it surprising because they're showing a lot of male asses and a lot of penises? And I'm like, it's flipping everything on its head and making fun of what you'd expect out of a action-packed, this is what we're gonna do for a either action movie or a dark superhero world, or just what the tropes of how women in sex scenes are portrayed in film in general, right? And I think to your point, Tim, like doing satire right, and you're talking about doing it, in a different way of the original and stuff. Like it's interesting to see how the show has evolved, and I honestly think is so much smarter than the comic ever was. And that's somebody who read a lot of the comic. I never saw it all the way through, but was a big fan of it. And then it got canceled and it got brought back, and I was there for all that. And it was that thing of like the comic was very graphic. Here's titties and here's sex, and we're using it in a salacious, sexy way to tantalize you and be like how crazy. Like this one obviously has sex in it and stuff, but I think it's interesting that Huey and Starlight's relationship of having sex in a loving relationship is like that's attractive. It's not sexy necessarily. It's heartwarming. We're glad to see Huey and Starlight have moments of happiness. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you see the Deep, getting pounded or whatever, like it's never like, yeah, this is hot. It's always like, oh God, this is like that extreme thing of like how bent everybody is in this universe.
Well, and also you have his relationship with his wife, which is a complete farce, right? And her at the end, that scene where he's like, "That's my friend,
the fucking octopus."
He's like, he's praying. Like,
my God, dude, that Timothy scene was amazing.
Or Timothy, that's what it was. Tony.
That was such an improv moment. He's praying right now.
Like, God, that was terrifying. But I'll say one of the things that I really, really like about the show is I was as you were talking, Greg. It's no surprise I was using that time to think about other stuff to say instead of listening to.
Yeah, of course. It's great. I put up a screenshot of, us at the thing, and it took me a good 3.5 minutes to get you to look at the camera for the screenshot because you just been over here the entire time while Tim was giving the introduction. So yeah,
fair enough. What I love, and I was trying to think about, I'm like, what is the big action set piece from the first 3 episodes? And I couldn't think about it because all of the moments. Termite was that was good, I guess. I was thinking of that and the South or the Central America. Where is Nicaragua? South America. That part was great too, but the moments that stand out to me in this series aren't the action sequences
for sure.
And in fact, I don't really care so much for them. I think they're great, and obviously they do what I think action sequences should do, which is kind of punctuate some of the other things we're dealing with these characters. But the sequences that really stick out in my brain, like the one that really sticks out, is when he lands to stop the girl from jumping off the building, and then just says, "Fuck it, you're jumping." And it's such a twist and such a quick like turn on a dime for him that it is terrifying. that's what this show is all about, right? It's about taking that expectation and just twisting it to something so fucking dark. And yeah, I mean, like, this is what I always when we watched Peacemaker, I was like, that might be the closest analog to this, even though I don't think, and this is no disrespect to the Peacemaker team, I think I love that show, and I hope they keep making those episodes. And shout out to James Gunn and the guys. But this show is what every dark, twisted, fucked up comic book show should aspire to be.
Mm. I was trying to explain it to one of my friends. I was like, "Man, how do you describe the show?" And Tim kind of nailed it. I said it was like it's if Game of Thrones kind of met South Park, but you had that care and love of an MCU type with it because it meshes it so well. And like you said, with all the satire, I feel like it's. I was fighting with that too. Is it just referencing these things? You know, the commercialization of the woke movement, or the gun troll, even like toddlers and tiaras, of how they flip that on its head at the end. There's so many things that it goes after everything. It's very fair, and like anyone can get it, everyone can get it, and at the end of the day, it's good TV. It's absolutely good TV. And to go what to Nick was saying, that was the first time we got to see Homelander kind of be Homelander again in the season, and you immediately feel that overwhelming anxiety hit when he starts talking to this girl, and that dread just when he turns it on. Anthony Starr cannot be touched as Homelander, and it was such a it gives me chills thinking about that moment of him like, no, you're gonna go do it. Maybe you should.
Before we move on, let me tell you about our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. I love MeUndies from head to toe, all over my body. If you don't believe me, of course, right now, I'm wearing the MeUndies shirt. You can tell by the little tag going on right there, right? I got the MeUndies lounge shorts going on. Of course, I got the undies, and then boom, MeUndies socks, baby. That's how we do out here at Kinda Funny. I love being soft head to toe in the micro-modal fabric. You already know all about that, but if you don't, let's face it, summer's sweaty, but your butt doesn't have to be. With MeUndies light and breathable micro-modal fabric, you can stay comfy and cool all summer long. They have super fun seasonal prints and tons of styles to choose from, but if you just like classic black, that's totally cool too. They got a bunch of just bold colors for you to go for. They have super fun seasonal prints, tons of styles, and sizes extra small to 4XL, so you can bring the beach to your butt without ever leaving your living room. MeUndies has a great offer for all of you first-time purchasers. You can get 15% off. If you sign up for their free-to-join membership, you can apply that 50% off to their already discounted membership prices. To get 15% off your first order and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/kindafunny. That's MeUndies.com/kindafunny. Tell them Tim Getty sent you. Shout out to Chime for sponsoring this episode. No one likes waiting on a paycheck, especially when you've got bills due. Good thing there's Chime. Now you can get your paycheck up to 2 days early without direct deposit. That's up to 2 more days to save, pay bills, and generally just feel good about your money situation. But Chime is about more than just getting paid early. It's also an award-winning mobile app, checking account, debit card, and optional savings account. So what are you waiting for? Hopefully not your paycheck. Get started with Chime today. Applying for a free account takes less than 2 minutes. Get started at chime.com/KFgames. That's CHIME.com/KFgames. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank or Stride Bank NA. Members FDIC. Early access to direct deposit funds depends on payer. Get started at chime.com/KFgames. Shout out to Credit Karma for sponsoring this episode. Want a new credit card but not sure how to choose? You don't need to apply for the first offer that you see in the mail. Credit Karma can help you zero in on the right option for you and apply with more confidence. I love Credit Karma. I've been using it for years to check my credit profile, make sure everything is good and on the up and up. Credit Karma uses your credit profile to show you offers that are tailored to your financial situation. Credit Karma partners with a wide range of card issuers, so you can be sure that you're exploring all sorts of options. Best of all, Credit Karma uses your credit data to show you your chances of approval before you even apply, helping you apply with more confidence. Comparing cards on Credit Karma is 100% free and most importantly, will not affect your credit score. That is huge. Credit Karma, create your own karma. Ready to find the right card for you? Head to Credit Karma and check out your personalized mix of offers today. That's creditkarma.com or hit up the Credit Karma app to find the right card for you. That's creditkarma.com. Sorry, Fuego. Sorry to cut you off there.
It was great. It was great.
I was gonna say, and then leading into at the end, Fuego, with like putting Starlight in one of the scariest, creepiest situations, which I did not see coming at all. And obviously, I think it's to change your mood from this is funny as hell to reintroduce the deep on this show, and the contestants are like, "What the fuck are we doing?" Like, I guess none of us are winning it. They're bringing back the deep, so that's the final spot in the 7. To go from that moment of hilarity and like that's a funny, genuine moment to, by the way, me and Starlight are dating. We're together now, and god damn, you just feel this pit in your stomach.
Right.
And
Well,
I think it's just like it is perfect TV. Yeah.
It was a great way to double down on it, right? Because yeah, there's the hilarity of these two people finding out that no, the deep's back, your dream's over. But then there is that moment of like, all right, Starlight's got to suck it up and have the man who sexually assaulted her be on stage, right? And then she has to also suck it up and act like she forgives him and that it was her idea. And just as you're able, like as a viewer, to be like, what a fucking horrible situation for her to be in, but we understand why she's doing it and she understands why she's doing it. Then to have that tossed on her, right? And then to have the reaction from her, the great callback to the beginning of the episode, right? With the fist of anger behind her back, right?
Yeah.
But then you start running through what it means for her and Huey. My one thing about episode 3 while we're here that I felt like we were retreading was the conversation between Huey and Annie on the phone where he was like, you have to stay, like do it, like I want to leave. I feel like we've done this conversation before in these, and for both of them in these, like I feel like at this point, I'm literally talking about a minute where I'm just like, all right, I feel like we've had this conversation. Are you going to break up about this? You're going to do whatever? No, you're just going to accept it. Okay, like I understand we need to verbalize it or double down, but I feel like we could have doubled down and not made it seem like we were breaking new ground.
See, but I think this is where we start getting some of like the commentary that Tim was talking about, right? Where it's like that this is where we start to learn like what people go through in real life. Like, you know, I mean, this is obviously, you know, the theme of this is that, you know, she is a young woman in this corporate world, and she has to deal with a lot of shit to actually be able to affect any sort of change. And obviously, yeah, that was some of the themes of the first couple seasons as well. But you're seeing that here, right? You're seeing what she has to struggle with and what she has to deal with in order to be heard. And that's a very, very powerful thing. Similar to how when they walk into the janky ass Vought land that looks like it's just like everything's paper thin. That is what a lot of corporations, you know, that is a commentary on how the corporations kind of see a lot of these movements. Is like, we're just going to do the bare minimum to let people know that we care, and then we're going to get them into the park and have them spend a lot of money on these. I love where it's like it's inclusion lane, but it's like the donuts with the burgers in the middle of it. These kids are just stuffing their face with that stuff. It's like such a great visual.
Yeah, but to your point though, Nick, I feel like again I think we're on the same page. We're at different points. Like I feel Annie's conversation to Huey when she was like, when they had the debate of her being co-captain, said all this enough to then get to again outside of the trailer and the phone call being, "Hey, Homelander's crazy," and he's like, "Yeah, we've known he's crazy. We know." Like I get it. Like you knew this when you punched your ticket. And had to go through this.
I completely disagree, Greg, because we needed the moment of Huey. We needed that moment of dialogue for the viewers to have that moment of him saying,
Butcher was
"Look,
right.
You gotta stay."
Butcher was right. Doing it the right and correct way is not going to work. We have to play dirty." And I feel like I had never really seen Huey say something like that. Of course, he's going back with Butcher, so we know he feels it. But having him say it on screen, I think, was really important to be like.
But I feel like he could have said that without Annie having it feel like she's gonna try to back down on the fact that she was the one who was gung ho on this. I understand it's real life too, of like you have doubts even when you're 100% sure of yourself. But I just didn't like that one conversation before.
Interesting.
But to add to Andy's point, there was also two very important bits of dialogue in that conversation. Of one, it was, hey, we might have found a weapon to kill Homelander. And it was to let Huey know that she threatened him with the video and he no longer cares anymore.
Yeah.
And so it was nuts. So I feel like they both needed that. And then Huey would be like, hey, I need you to stick it out, for it to immediately turn. And then her be like, okay, not only am I going to stick it out, but I got to pretend to date this man. Yeah. I feel like it sets up the next episode very well. Oh, Huey's going to be like, that's not what I meant. This is not what I want. Sure. And at least it sets up something for the future where it's not just retreading water in a sense of no point to it. At least it kind of reminds you of all those things you need to get to.
And it also sets up the issue with her and Sonic Boom. Supersonic. For Supersonic to say, you know what, I am joining the 7. I do have your back. and we need that sort of tension to sort of drive that. It's not only her and Homelander that Huey's worried about. He's always been worried about Supersonic, and now Supersonic comes back as, "Hey, I have your back," and her saying, "Wow, it is nice to have someone have my back." We need that moment to sort of drive that wedge in between Starlight and Huey.
I'm curious when the other shoe will drop on that though, because low-key, part of him is just greedy. He just wants to be in this thing, right? Like he's obviously talked about how he's had to degrade himself with this song over and over and over again as an adult man. And I'm curious to see if that's gonna backfire on her trust in him when he gets into the 7 and what's gonna happen there.
Maybe, but I do think that the
I don't
direction,
trust anyone in this show, Andy.
I do think that the direction of that sequence of him saying I'm dating Starlight, they showed enough shots of Supersonic looking at Starlight and being like, "Oh, she is not happy about this." Like I think they showed it, like maybe if they showed Supersonic and he was smiling too and super stoked or whatever, but they showed him there was visible concern of like, "Ooh, that she was not expecting that to happen."
Yeah.
And now that I know what she's going through with this piled onto it, this is really sort of fucked up right now. So I think if any of these non-main cast characters are going to be genuine and sort of have the right head on their shoulders, I think it's going to be Supersonic.
Andy backs Supersonic, everybody. We'll see how this one plays out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I want to give a quick shout out to Carl Urban, who I think is just the fucking backbone of the show. And I know that sounds silly because obviously he's just great in every episode, but his performance in these 3 episodes I thought was really, really, really good, specifically
100%.
with the kid. Him and Laz Alonso, I think they did great jobs. And the themes of like the sins of the father being revisited on the son, those two specifically, I thought that was a really interesting dynamic to see. Mother's milk being brought back in and like just kind of dragged back in by this thing that he couldn't get beyond, and then Butcher just trying for 1 second to like bond with this kid, but then it's always the Harry and the Hendersons problem, Greg, where it's like, in order to
Go into the woods.
you gotta yell at the kid to get into the woods for his own good, and you never want to see it. But I love that
throw you
dynamic.
into the sun though, but yeah.
Yeah, he definitely went full Butcher again, and it's so cool to see. And I think it's very interesting because like we had that moment of Homelander landing at his house, and in the past 2 seasons they've only really had direct one-to-one dialogue in a couple scenes, and it was the first season 8 of episode 8 of the first season, episode 8 of the second season. So to get that immediately this early on and the fantastic back and forth that they had was great. And then to talk about him and the kid, my goodness, that Lego scene broke me as a father.
Good.
It just broke.
First off, this kid is really talented. We talked about this last season.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
get this kid on YouTube. This kid could have 10 million subscribers right now.
Was that scene with Homelander talking to Butcher, was that real? I thought that was more of a...
Oh, I thought that was real.
imagination.
Oh, it's definitely real.
It's totally real.
I thought it was not real too.
Wait, what scene? What scene?
The scene
Where he
When
where
they're at the
Plays
table,
apartment.
when Butcher doesn't take the green stuff. and
That was
puts it in the-
imagination. That was his imagination.
Yeah, that was his
Was it?
imagination, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
I thought
Because-
it was real.
It was his
I thought he
imagination
just-
because we see another sequence where Homelander is talking from the TV at Butcher, and that's like
Yeah.
him just sort of visual.
Ah.
It's like Magic Johnson in Showtime looking at Larry Bird, Nick. Like it's sort of him
Yeah.
kind of imagining.
Yeah,
this
you're in your
foe,
own head.
you know?
I thought
Yeah.
I thought when he looked back, it was just a home.
Yeah, I thought it was super speed that he just got out of there.
Yep, same.
It's terrifying. Interesting.
Either way,
open
great
interpretation.
performance and a great conversation. I
Love
think that
that.
was awesome.
I wanted 2 more notable things that I had written down. That I love the Stan Edgar Nadia relationship. I think again
Dude.
going back into the father daughter, father son sort of relationship. He actually like kind of cares about her, but he can't be her father because he knows what she is. But then it's like, what is his ultimate goal? Was he serious when he closed the door and was like, I fucking hate superheroes. I want to be out of this business in 3 years. Like, the development of the V24 and being like, this is the answer. Because clearly these superheroes, making a superhero permanent is a terrible idea. I love that. But then is he low-key using Victoria to keep crowd control on all the superheroes? Or do you think he has different motives?
No, 100% to crowd control. I'm sorry to interject, but like
No, go for
for
it.
me, that was one of the biggest moments that we got in these 3 episodes. That it like, because remember, like the creation of this, the FBSA, I think is what it is.
Mhm.
Right. The
Like
FBI for secret people, for super people.
they created it because they're like, oh, there's an insurrection in Vought that like killed all these people, and like the reality is that like that kind of is the case, or like Vought is still in control of that insurrection that happened, and is so wild, and like to me like just blew my mind on like how deep Vought has its like
Yeah, that's
control
next
of
level
everything.
chess
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a deep strategy there that you're not seeing coming out. But that's why I mean, no one does it better than Giancarlo Esposito, man. That
Well,
guy.
that's the thing, man. Like you were saying that shout out to Carl Urban, and absolutely, but I think that's kind of my favorite thing about this show is that if you were to ask like what is the best thing about the boys, I could not give you one answer. I would have to give you like 20 different answers because the core cast would be a fantastic answer for that. They're so good, and the fact that we're 3 seasons in and Anthony Starr is scarier than he's ever been on the road if he's not already one of the greatest villains period ever in media at all. Like he's so damn good, so damn terrifying and deep and complex, and not just evil for evil's sake. Like we get his backstory, we get his relationships with people, and we believe it. But then you look at Jack Quaid, who honestly, man, like to see him from season 1 till now, like I think that his presence on this show is I would have never thought that he would be able to own every scene that he's in as much as he is in season 3. It is so fucking cool to see. And that's just like the core cast, right? And even like looking with Starlight, Aaron Moriarty's fantastic as well. Like the core people are so good. But then you get to the supporting cast of people like Giancarlo, and you're like, holy shit, they're all amazing as well.
So stacked.
But
they have a deep bench, man.
Dude, but then the bench, and this is what I was saying earlier about like the satire level of it allows them to just go above and beyond. Like having Charlize Theron for that cameo, you know what I mean?
God, so good.
Having Billy Zane as that cameo, it's like there's these like they're allowed to work in a meta way that a lot of the superhero movies that we love aren't capable of doing, because if you get too tongue-in-cheek and too I see what you did there, it only works in things like Deadpool or like moments of like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness or stuff that like if you know of the connections here. But like this show has all of the main cast, supporting cast, that when it has these cameo moments, they feel so good and so like enhancing the content that they're giving us. And it's not just cameos, it's also like the use of like licensed music. Like I feel like this show uses its budget perfectly, where it's like, we need Baby One More Time for this. We need Rock You Like a Hurricane, like a weird
Town
version
Girl,
of it. Like,
man, that's great.
they use all that stuff to kind of tell the whole story. And like, it's just, I'm so goddamn impressed with this show.
Yeah,
I was enthralled with the Huey having that reveal that this congresswoman that he's been working for, he's still back in the shit. You know, and no matter how hard he tries to get out of it, you keep pulling him back in. And that's I think he played that so perfectly. Jack Quaid played that so incredibly well. But that moment of her in the alleyway with this friend of hers from her past, that they, I guess, both were at this halfway house, right? I believe is what they were both at this halfway house together, orphanage, and I think that sequence was like pitch perfect, especially just the way it's acted, it's performed, and her putting her hand behind his head, and you sort of see her eye and the blood coming out of his nose. Like, holy shit, this show is like just finds ways to keep on upping the ante without feeling like it's getting old or stale.
Yeah, when she blew his hand off, I was like, oof.
The acting is so well. Seeing a lot of times acting could be hid. Sometimes you just have great dialogue, and if it's written great, it's almost impossible to mess up. But then you have these people that you could just, by certain looks, by the way you could see how troubled they are in their head. Even with Karen Fukuhara with Kimiko, doesn't say a word, but you can just see the feeling that she has.
Her conversation with Ryan while they played Connect between 3 and 5, it was so good to see them go back and forth and like talk about their powers and her hate her powers. And then her performance in episode 1, right, where she walked in on the piano and sang, and Jen was like, "I thought she didn't talk." I'm like, "I don't know if this is really happening."
Yeah,
so I just wanted to call it really quick in that alleyway scene. I loved getting a better understanding of how her powers work. Victoria, I believe is her name.
Or Nadia.
The old Nadia. I thought it was really neat that it had to be. It reminded me of just like My Hero Academia, where it has to be like you have to be making eye contact. This isn't just something she can kind of conjure up. And there's the moments where he's holding her face away, and she's trying to get a peek at him, and then whatever's in her eye line, like the jaw gets popped off. Then the top, like it's so brutal, but just done in a really cool way. And then yeah, that sequence with Karen Fukuhara, absolutely heartbreaking. And again, that is a B plot. We are seeing, obviously she's in the main cast, but we are seeing how other things are affecting her and where does that take her. We also, what the fuck's happening with friendship? Like, there's so many interesting threads, man.
Yeah, and the A-Train, we haven't talked about the A-Train plot, right? Where
Oh my
he's
God.
lost his speed and he's doing everything he possibly can to stay relevant. And but I mean, even that scene, I think one of the best scenes of that episode was him reconnecting with his brother and having his nephews just dunk on him. I was like, that's how that would go.
When his sister-in-law pops out, she's like, "Oh no,
that
the suit's
garbage.
terrible. I just don't want them talking like that."
And even flipped the police brutality onto superhero brutality, and it was a play on that as well. It's everything in this show is so well done, and I'm usually all for the binge model, but there was so much in these 3 episodes where I felt like it was almost too much ice cream in a sense of like, man, I need a moment to breathe. I really want to think about this, and I can't wait now for the week to week to kind of hit so I can really digest, because there were big moment after big moment. Like at the end of episode 1, you had that moment of Huey realizing that Victoria is bad. Then you have the moment in the second episode of Butcher eventually taking the superhero
Experimental
fluid
media.
and beats.
B24.
Oh my god, yeah, and it beat that man up, as well as Homelander's birthday party and that speech at the end. And I was like, man, I'm getting no time to breathe before we jump right into the 3rd episode of everything going on there. And it's much more gory this season, I feel like, than even and last 2 seasons were gory, but this season is nuts.
There was a pee hole.
Starts off with was it Termite? That's the name of the character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Going through a man's pee hole, and by the way, did anyone in any shape or form not know exactly how that scene was gonna end? When he sneezed the first time, I was like,
God,
oh
no.
no,
Yeah,
this is not gonna
yeah.
go well. I did not see him ending with Butcher catching him in a bag of cocaine though. That
Did
was
not,
one that.
no.
Yeah,
I knew that was
I
gonna get me
couldn't
there.
miss that one. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was hilarious.
It was great.
Yeah,
I paused
Fuego.
immediately and went and showed my wife that scene. She doesn't watch The Boys after the first season. She couldn't do it anymore. I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. You gotta see it.
If you hung in through the whale, you could hang in through anything.
Yeah.
Like, this pushed the limits for sure. There was multiple times I had to look away from these 3 episodes where I was like, this is just
No,
a
dude.
lot.
Her blowing the guy's jaw off was like
It's a lot.
God,
You say all that, like, you don't get me wrong. It was like, oh my god, these are grotesque and gruesome moments. For me, it was like when it was Kimiko was gonna break Huey's arm.
Yep.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
oh man, don't do this,
No.
Huey.
And they
I
put a
understand,
trash bag. He puts the trash bag under there. I was like, what's the trash bag for?
Yeah,
Just, oh
dude.
yeah,
Pacey,
Mother's Milk
please.
trying to keep the flat iron.
OCD.
I was laughing. That busted me up when he came in. He's like, "This is a historical significance." And like, yeah, the trash bag.
I was
cleaning up.
dying of laughter just watching Butcher kind of take in the moment and drinking his tea, like smiling, like, God damn, like this whole cast is so fucking perfect.
To Fuego's point about it being a lot, like these 3 episodes, each one of them, I don't think that there's any change in quality between them. I think they're all equally good, and with that, they're all equally dense with everything. It's everything all at once, where we're getting the most graphic shit, the most funny stuff, the most deep stuff, the most like everything happening. And it's like when I watched Euphoria for the first time, I was like, I can't binge this show, even though they're all available. It's like I need to take it 1 episode at a time, maybe 2 if I'm feeling fucking crazy, just because it's so much to take in.
Yeah.
And last night when I popped up Amazon Prime and I saw how long the runtimes were for each one of these, like this was a full 3 hours of content.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm strapping in for this, and it's going to be a lot. And I was engaged the entire way through, but it is one of those things where I don't know that they needed to drop 3. Like it was a lot. And the counterpoint to myself though is I feel the sweet spot would have been 2, because throwing you into episode 1, even watching the recap of seasons 1 and 2, there's so much that has happened in so many relationships and so many subplots going on that I was like trying to play catch up of like, okay, when's the last time we saw you? Where your situation is? All
I
that stuff.
regret not rewatching it.
And then with that, I think that the having more than 1 episode really helped, because now all of us we're in the world again. Like we are caught up.
True. That's true.
We're totally ready to go with all the plot lines, and we're like stoked for episode 4 of like where's the resolution going, what's going on. Andy?
What are our predictions for Butcher and his superpower stuff not going away after 24 hours and vomiting over Huey in that sort of final sequence? Do we think?
I think it's gonna be. I think
do
it's
we
a
think he
drug.
uses the bomb to like kill himself or something like that?
I think
this
it's going to be a
weapon?
struggle of him becoming an addict. I think that's going to be the
Mhm.
thing because
Turning
he's
into
showing
a thing he
classic
hates.
withdrawals. He's showing withdrawal symptoms, and so I would assume he's going to get hooked on the stuff and have to keep going, and that'll become then the race to keep going, and then eventually confess that to the boys, or they find out, and it's a huge problem.
Right.
Mm.
That'd
Look
be
to
my
the
guess as
soup
well.
juice, what would you do to get some of that soup juice,
Oh
Nick?
my
I don't
god.
know. I've been looking over. Fuego,
I'd
you're
do
looking
it
a little
hard,
buffer than usual. You know what I mean? You know some about this soup juice.
What?
Oh man.
Tim, Nick, what are your predictions there?
I'm with Greg on this one. I think it's going to be him. Obviously, it's the classic struggle of like I don't want to take the thing, and then of course when you take the thing, you get addicted to the thing because now he can beat the shit out of any. Now he's got Homelander's powers, and of course that's going to set them up for an interesting dynamic because they're going to square off. And I still don't think he's going to be as powerful as Homelander. The more curious thing for me is what is this weapon, if there is a weapon? Because something's going on
gonna be a
with
person,
Soldier
I think.
Boy. Is it a person, or did he just
No,
go to Russia and?
Well,
I don't think Soldier Boy's dead. Yeah, I don't
He's
think
not
Soldier
dead.
Boy's
Yeah, I
dead.
mean,
Yeah,
they
no, he's
showed him
definitely
in
not
the
dead.
trailers.
No,
No, he's not dead. He's
So-
probably in, it's Captain America, right? So he's in some kind of deep freeze kind of situation that they'll bust him
Winter
out for or
Soldier,
whatever
yeah.
they've been doing. And like,
Yeah.
they've been, taking his blood super soldier serum, right? Probably trying to make their own soups over there and it hasn't been working or something.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a person or some kind of program, that's been kept.
But we
keeping
haven't
him under.
seen anyone this weapon at all, right?
No.
Did we see it? Yeah, I don't
Well, because it's not.
weapon at
I
all.
don't think it's a literal weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think
he's
the
weapon or
only
whatever it is.
thing that'll ever probably be able to kill Homelander is his son, Ryan, and I feel like that's the ultimate weapon when you think
That's where
about
we're
it, but
going.
he's not ready yet,
Yeah,
You,
Andy,
you
I
gotta
don't
train
know.
him up like Gohan,
I don't, but I'll take your word for it.
Dragon Ball Z.
It's interesting where being 3 episodes into this season, there's only 8, so we have 5 left, and I feel like there's been so much in this kind of like first act of setting things up that how hard they went with Homelander and with his speech he gave that was so fucking terrifying of the I'm fucking Homelander, and like when he was talking to Starlight and gave her the whole idea of like, yeah, leak the fucking tape and eventually I'm going to destroy everything. I'm just going to be the ruler of the entire fucking world. And it's like, does he actually have the means to do that? Because like they kind of set up and shown so far that yeah, if he decides to do that, it's game fucking over. But
Yeah.
can people team up against him? And I think to answer the question about what I think is going to happen with Butcher, it's like I don't think that we have enough information now to see where they're going, because it's like they're setting it up that it's going to be this fight, but it's like I just don't understand how a fight is going to work with Homelander. Andy,
You bringing up that speech that we've already kind of talked about a little bit, but I loved him talking about, well, first I'd go after the defense systems, and then I'd go after like cellular networks. Like, god damn, he is so methodical and
So
conniving
terrifying.
with every word that he says.
Yeah, he's fantasized about this, right? He knows he wants to do this. He's just itching for a reason to go to full on to that dark side on that one. And
absolutely.
He's got that great line. I'd rather be. I'd like to be loved, but
right. But
it's fears.
I'm okay with being feared, yeah.
I think he said it something creepy, like, but fear is just okay with me or something
Yeah.
like that. Okie dokie with me.
Yeah.
It was like so creepy.
Yeah,
One
that was
thing-
a great sequence, but also I wanted to call it just that sequence with the woman who wanted to jump off the building when
Yeah.
he gets the news, and I loved having all of the PR at the bottom. Obviously, sort of like,
Yeah,
hey,
Ash
we're
is
gonna
like, fuck.
we're gonna try to raise his Q score or whatever, and film him, helping a young lady who's about to commit suicide, and then god damn it, and you're like, wait, what's happening? What's going on? And then bam, there she is, a storm front, and
Do
she
we feel like she's dead?
killed herself. I think she is.
I feel
If
like
you
we
die
would've
off
seen it.
camera,
You're
yeah,
not
exactly.
dead.
If you die off
Yeah.
camera, you're usually not dead.
Someone, yeah,
but I
something's
mean, like,
happening
what
with
kind
her.
of life was she living there as like? Just,
But I think then they bring her back like as a Darth Vader.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
something.
I would
I think-
thought
or
probably
they're-
got scooped her up out of there and do something.
I think
weird
it's
to her.
less that. I think you're gonna find her like hooked up to machines later, like being mined for her
Trying to-
blood
yeah,
or
that
something like
makes
that.
sense.
Because she was super powerful.
Sure.
I think it's gonna
One
be
quick
something
thing,
like that.
I think to Andy's question, and then what Tim had said, right, of like what's going on with Butcher and the drugs and what's going to happen there, and then Tim's like, I don't see somebody who can fight Homelander. How does that work? I wouldn't be surprised maybe if it builds to Butcher having to take multiple doses and kind of overdosing on the new
ODing.
compound, whatever they call this compound V, to then fight
V24.
Homelander. A24, the music
V24.
V24.
Yeah, there's that part
Marketing
where
is still working it out.
Edgar's talking about it, and he keeps correcting the guy and being like V24. It's V24.
Yeah, 'cause
Also,
the other
shout outs
thing's
to
like
young
Insidious.
Edgar. I feel like really good casting
Great
there.
casting.
Yeah,
He was
you
really
can
good.
tell he
Yeah.
studied Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah.
And then I gotta shout out that line in episode 2 of him, of Gian saying, "What's your party? You can cry if you want to."
Dude, it was
Yeah.
so good. That delivery, man. Like he's just so damn good at that stuff. Like I love that. I love
Seeing
the
Noir with the mask, like
yeah, dude. And that
Yeah.
was so fucking brutal. Like it was so
Yeah.
sad. The conversations leading to it too. It's like this show, man, it got the stuff. I loved the Anthony Starr at the end just being like hashtag home light. Like it's
Yeah,
like
so
no
twice, but he had to
and
see it twice. I love that they have to do a second take on it.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the meta commentary of the show of like we've got these real life superheroes. Not only are we commoditizing them across the board with like toys and all this shit, but we also have the Justice League movie. But then we're also going to degrade it so far, debase it so much that we're going to go into reality television. They got the Bachelorette of this world, which we can all agree is like just the base lowest possible form of art, the Bachelorette. That was just for Tim. I
You're
just wanted to
such a
see Tim
fuck.
shake
I
his
know
head
it's
at
for
that.
me. I know it's
Everyone
for
knew
me,
it was
Nick.
just for Tim.
But it's so good. And then having him, I mean, to just go back to John Carlos Peter for a second. I think that the most poignant thing he said, and I think this is kind of sums up the series in general, is when we talk about power, right? Power for him is not about being able to like move mountains or fly. It's about having that ability to change the world with just whatever, just bend the world, I think is what he said, to your will. And that's what he does. He did that in Breaking Bad. I thought he did so well. And in this one, it's just so cool to have him, no matter what, find that control over Homelander. But I'm curious to see, because Elizabeth Shue had that as well. She did it in a different way, and it didn't go so well for her. So we'll see what happens with Stan.
was
Yeah,
her
that's the
son that
thing.
kid who was disappearing?
The teleporting?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think so.
she said
because
they said her name was Stillwell. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
so
was the
that's-
kid's name?
yeah.
Has it been that long? It
That's
has
like
been
calling your
one
kid
year
Skywalker
jump,
and trying to
right?
hide him. That was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been a 1 year
jump.
jump from the end of season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're running out of time here, unfortunately, to talk about these first 3 episodes, but we will be back next week, actually with a very different crew of people, because Greg and I are going to be down in LA doing modern E3 stuff, Summer Game Fest. What's it called? Play Days? Play Days. Stay tuned to youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, twitch.tv/KindaFunnyGames for all of Summer Game Fest shenanigans that we're going to be doing. But because of that, we're going to be out, which means it'll be a different crew. Don't know exactly who's going to be on that yet, but it's going to be a fun time. We'll be talking about episode 4, and then we will be doing these for weekly, every single episode till the end. Fuego, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
Fuego del Sol on Twitter, Fuego del Sol _ on Instagram, and then AEW on Wednesday and Friday nights, TBS, TNT, and then AEW YouTube channel. Check us out.
Hell yeah, man. Till next time. Love you all. Goodbye.